Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.
Hello and good evening, Larchmont and Mamaroneck. I'm your new host, Erica Lynn, and you're watching The Local Live. We're back from a 3-week hiatus and ready to report the news happening near you. In the seller's market, aspiring homeowners know what they want, but do they know the essential tips in finding their perfect place? Later, local guests join Mike Witch at the Roundtable to learn the ABCs of buying your first home. The trustee of elections are coming up. Republicans and Democrats are getting ready, but one candidate is already facing hurdles. We'll be looking at the who's who on the ballot. Are school bake sales violating federal law? We find out as we highlight reports from the latest Mamaroneck School Board meeting. And coming up later, a fearsome 75-yard Tigers touchdown takes our best play of the week. Do you know what MRF stands for? Rebecca Berman will show us how one man's trash is another man's treasure. And we show you how MCTV turns students into young filmmakers. We hope you can find room in your heart and your home for Carly, our featured pet of the week. The Democratic Party ticket is set. On September 9th, candidates Leon Potok, Alyssa Miller, and David Finch came out on top in the Democratic primary with 90% of the vote. 1,941 votes were cast in total. The 3 Democrats will run against Republican candidates Michael Iannello, Stephanie Lividini, and Maggie Lee O'Neill for the 3 Board of Trustee positions this November. Miller, Finch, and Potok received 31, 98, and 28% of the votes, respectively. Andre Bermudez-Hallstrom finished last with 11%. Candidate Alyssa Miller received the highest percentage of votes. However, she now faces the consequences of a discriminatory racial comment made in an interview with the Mamaroneck Review. During this interview, Miller was asked, "Do you think the trustee Bermudez-Hallstrom isn't reelected? The Latin Hispanic population in the village will go underrepresented." In her response, Miller stated she didn't think this was true, but also continued to talk about the Hispanic Resource Center, quote, "If you need all different walks of life, you need people who are going to mow your lawn, do your dishes, take care of your kids, and drive your car. All of these things make a community." On September 8th, Board of Trustees meeting, Miller issued a public apology for her statement.
The Hispanics and the Latinos in this community has every single right to be angry about my comments, as reported in the Mamaroneck Review last week. No member of our community should ever be treated as if there's a limit to what they are capable of accomplishing and contributing, whether they sit on the board or are community members who are highly professional people. And for that, I am sorry, I am embarrassed, and it was absolutely wrong. I spoke carelessly and hurtfully, and I am beyond sorry for what I have said.
Mamaroneck High School student-run clubs have been affected by the recent federal law that bans bake sales. The new restrictions apply to fundraisers held during school hours and those bake sales that contain highly fatty or caloric sweets. It is a part of a First Lady Michelle Obama's push for a healthy classroom and fitness.
In other MHS news, many student-run clubs have been affected by the recent federal law that actually bans bake sales during school hours. Many clubs make most, if not all, of their revenue through bake sales, and due to shortage of funds, this year, we have lost 21 of our 33 philanthropy clubs. Last year at this time, we'd only lost 8 clubs.
Remember, you can go to our webpage, www.lmctv.org, and watch the full meeting and more LMC TV programming. Now we'll take a look at what's trending in our local media.
The Palmer Avenue Streetscape project resumed earlier this month, reports the Mamaroneck Review. The Village of Larchmont has a new contractor, McNamee Construction Corporation. The streetscape will widen and replace 4,000 square feet of sidewalk, replace sick trees, install new benches, and upgrade street lamps along Palmer Avenue's business district and Chatsworth and Larchmont Avenues. Daniel Gray is the new building inspector in the village of Mamaroneck. The story in the Mamaroneck Review says Gray has a decade of experience with the city of White Plains in its building department and code enforcement. Plus, he's worked 40 years in construction and private development. Welcome, Daniel. Mamaroneck Library got a gold plaque today, distinguishing the recently renovated and enlarged building for energy efficiency and environmental design. There's a green roof, outdoor air monitoring, limited toxic building materials, and increased ventilation, among other characteristics. The LEED gold plaque is the first in the village of Mamaroneck. The library has joined Larchmont Library in what they're calling a community read, one book, one Mamaroneck. The program aims to unite residents from Mamaroneck, Ryeneck, and Larchmont through reading. The first up, I Am Malala, the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. The libraries have planned 12 events next month around this book. Check their websites for details. In the Patch, I read about a brand new music business called Bach to Rock. They're on Mamaroneck Avenue near the harbor. They offer music lessons, a recording studio, and more. The Loop had a story about 16-year-old Olivia Thurman of Mamaroneck. She spent part of her summer at the Bolshoi Ballet Academy in Russia, one of 15 young dancers selected for a special program. She studied dance along with Russian language, history, and culture. You can read more about Olivia in the Loop. And finally, good news about the coming winter. Well, good news for adults anyway. The Daily Voice reports it won't be so bad. The National Weather Service, they say, is forecasting average temperatures and normal precipitation. Well, that's some of the local news I found this week in the media. I'm Mike Witch.
Stay tuned. The local life will be right back.
Hello, I'm Michael Witch, and welcome to the Roundtable on the ABCs of buying your first home. And I'm here with Rebecca Berman. And Rebecca is an active real estate agent, and she's also going to be talking and dealing with our social media.
That's right, Mike. Nice to be here tonight. And if any of you want to call in or tweet us or email us, we'd be happy to answer your questions.
And you know, in real estate, they say location, location, location. Well, you're in the right spot. We have 3 guests tonight to talk about the ABCs of buying your first home, and actually anything real estate and anything financial. And they are as follows. Kathleen Spadaro is a principal real estate broker at Spadaro Realty, or real estate, I should say, in Mamaroneck. Jane Murray, you're the associate broker at Caldwell Banker in Larchmont. And Rob Miller is vice president of mortgage lending for residential home funding. Well, welcome to the 3 of you.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking some time to be with us. And again, we invite callers to make comments, call in, tweet in, email in, and we'll do our best to get an answer from our guests. So, the local market, Mamaroneck, Larchmont, Ryeneck, hot, cold, things are selling, things are moving.
Cooling
It's cooling, okay?
this time of year, typically.
Sales are not fast.
Right.
No, it was
Okay.
a very aggressive spring, though.
Yep.
The spring market was more than hot. It was boiling.
And how about financial?
It's been very busy on my end, but clearly there's no question it's slowing down right now. You could point to a lot of reasons as to maybe why, but
This is not a cycle that you normally expect it to slow down.
No, this is not any. Again, obviously, approaching the holidays, you would expect a slowdown, and listen, you always expect a surge towards the end of the summer, and people are trying to move. Certainly in suburbia, people want to buy a home and get in before the school year starts. But it's a little bit more than that. I think that we're seeing an overall drop in mortgage applications. Obviously, listen, from the mortgage world, rates have been low for forever now.
Right.
So the refinance market has dropped. The purchase market is hot, but not as hot as we've been waiting for. You know, we've been talking about the big explosion, and inventory has always been the problem. It remains to be somewhat of a problem, a lot better than it used to be, and the inventory numbers, and I think the absorption rate has almost doubled in the last 6 to 12 months.
Well, then let me ask our realtors, what's the inventory in our community? Is there a lot on the market? Does it take a long time to sell?
I think it depends how things are priced and where they're located. And I think in the past year there was 218 sales in Larchmont and 75 in Mamaroneck.
Western Mamaroneck, yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the average day on market?
It'll vary. It can be, 33 days if something is, so desirable. And then it could be up to, 133 days.
Right.
Depends on the pricing. If you price your house well, it'll sell quickly.
Are people tending to price their house too high and then come down?
Personally, I feel that people are more realistic in selling their homes now after the, the ups and downs that we've had in the market. And if you, again, we were talking about sales that occurred over the list price.
Right.
And that's because they were priced realistically and created such a demand that they got over asking. You had a few of those.
Yeah, you always want to, the whole concept behind pricing a home or having an asking price is you're marketing your home. So if the buyer finds value, you will get multiple bids. The price will increase because they see a value, and people will come. They'll come shopping and they'll come ready to buy. It's when they don't perceive the value that the house will sit a little bit longer, and you'll see that you'll have to reduce the price of the house maybe to get the buyers in. And
Is there a style house that you guys find sells quicker than another style in this area?
Well, we're in an older community, and I think people tend to like the older houses, and colonials are probably the most popular. There's very little new construction here, and the new construction that we have are from older houses that were torn down. But I think, it's pretty much the same.
yeah,
in
colonials
Larchmont,
and
too.
Tudors typically is what you'll find.
Are there more teardowns in our area than you would expect to find of some of the older homes, as you mentioned?
Not as much as
I don't think so.
renovations.
Yeah.
You'll find if somebody has a smaller home on a larger lot and they feel that, a builder feels that they can purchase that and there's value, then they'll do that. But we don't find as much new construction in Larchmont and in Mamaroneck as you would in perhaps Rye.
Yeah, with larger properties. I mean, we're limited with our property, and then if you have a neighborhood that's limited in price range, you're not going to build a brand new house that's, the most expensive place on the block. So,
And Rob, what about the availability of mortgages?
Well, certainly from a tear down, it's much more difficult to get a new construction loan than it is to just get a traditional mortgage, which is readily available. Obviously, the press is that maybe it's harder to get a mortgage today than it was several years ago, and it is. And going back 5 or 6 years ago, you needed a heartbeat and you can get a mortgage. But it is more difficult. There's a lot involved in that. I'd have to be on your show about 10 more times to really explain why.
Well, we'll invite you back. We could do a special edition.
You got it. But there's still money out there. There are still mortgages being written. You don't need a large down payment to buy a home. That's not true.
What's your typical down payment that you're seeing people do?
Well, again, in the Westchester area and right here locally, you are seeing a little bit more of the 20% down, which is your cookie cutter, basic, throw 20% down. You can, on the jumbo side, put as little as 10% down and still be in a home in the $1 million range. Pushing above that, it gets a little bit more difficult. And certainly, if you're going into conventional loan limits and loans that are below 600,000 and then even a tier below into the 400,000s, you can still put 5% down or 3.5% down on an FHA loan. So the down payment, I don't think, is a problem in this industry of more than anything else. The debt to income ratio is our scrutiny right now, and how we calculate whether someone qualifies or not. That's really the tough part these days.
Do you find similarly in selling that people are hampered by finding the money? Or
It depends on your price
have they
range.
pre-qualified?
Well, I think almost everybody, when you're working with a buyer, or you're if you have the seller and the buyer's coming to you with an offer, everybody needs to be pre-qualified. Because if you're working with a buyer, you could be shopping for things that they can't afford.
Yeah.
And you've wasted a lot of time for everybody. And as, representing the seller, you need to make sure that the person that's putting their offer in is well qualified. It can't just be a great offer. You need to make sure that the offer is going to stick and go all the way through to the closing.
What is it about our community that people tell you they're attracted to? Just the proximity to water, the city?
The commute to the city, the
The commute,
community as a whole. It's a nice, Larchmont and Mamaroneck are both nice villages that you have a sense of walking down the street and you see other people that you know. The harbor is a great draw. There's all the community things for recreation in the area, and mostly I think it's a lot to do with the commute and
Yeah.
not just the community.
So,
I apologize, Mike. Does the tax factor, how does that affect your buyers coming into Larchmont and Mamaroneck? Is somebody just coming into the community?
you mean what?
The taxes.
Taxes.
We're the highest.
Again, I think
Country?
it
They need
depends upon
tissues
who.
when they
Yeah.
Are they shocked, like if it's a new buyer coming into the community?
Again, it depends on the price range and where they're coming from. So if you have a young couple that's coming up from the city and they've already looked at the schools, at the private schools of Manhattan, they're okay with them because, $25,000 a year in taxes, that's equivalent to kindergarten. So that's a trade-off that they've made, and they're okay with it.
Right.
Somebody else who might be, looking to change communities might say, "Holy mackerel!" If you're coming up from Brooklyn or Queens, and you're saying, "Holy," I just paid $5,000 a year in taxes,
Right.
and now it's 15. What am I going to do with this? So that they have to budget a lot more when they're looking at a house, and you have to look more closely at the taxes and how they're going to roll into their overall loan.
Right. As you're selling people, I know one of Mike's topics tonight is talking about new buyers coming into the market. And as you sell the Mamaroneck Larchmont community, what things do you kind of inform people about that the community has to offer? Someone who doesn't live here and hasn't ever, bought a home before, what things as realtors do you offer up that the town has?
Well, I think one of the things that Kathy spoke about is the recreation programs that we have. I mean, the town of Mamaroneck, which most people know incorporates Larchmont, Village of Larchmont, the Village of Mamaroneck, the recreation programs are unbelievable. I mean, whether you're an adult learning how to play tennis or you're a child who wants to learn flag football, there is something for everyone. They just had the camp out that they have in the harbor and the spooktacular that they have. There's so many things that you might not know about.
Right.
Yeah, you take swimming, you can become a lifeguard at the town pool. There's so many different things that you can do here. And then you have, we have strong schools. We have schools that, everybody's attracted to. And then the proximity to the city. And then if you're a boater, where else would you go?
Exactly.
This is it. There's not that much, sound shore community other than here.
Are we more affordable than Rye, for instance? Or less
Mamaroneck
affordable than
is.
New Rochelle? Or
Larchmont
where do
is
we
the
fit in
Larchmont
along the
is the-
coast?
It kind of depends because, you figure if you're going to start the Sound Shore area, you're starting technically, Pelham and working your way all the way up into Rye and even parts of Portchester. So it's really going to vary, again, speaking about location, where the house is and what you're looking for, how affordable it is. Everybody will tell you something different. Rye's more affordable, and New Rochelle is, or Larchmont is, or Mamaroneck is. It depends. It's really up to you. What's more affordable to you?
So when somebody comes to you and they want to buy a house, they've got a pretty good idea of what they can afford.
You hope.
You hope.
You hope.
And do they have they done much homework about the area? Do you find that? I have a cousin whose son and his new wife were interested in moving up in this area. And we sat down one time because I live in Mamaroneck, and I was surprised at how much they already knew. They had gone online, they had talked to people, and not me, but they had talked to other people. And they were quite familiar with the recreation and the schools. And,
Well,
yeah.
90% of home buyers are looking online first. So just as we would do anything, you know, how to treat a cold, you're going online. And that's where you're going to do the most research. And we need to make sure that that information is, you know, accurate and obtainable. And they come to us and they, you know, there's some things that might not be correct. But again, just like you see the pictures of a home online, once you're in the house, it might just be a little bit different. It might be better, it might be worse. You're not quite sure.
You think some of those pictures are photoshopped?
No.
Or staged, perhaps?
The wide-angle lens.
The wide angle, yes. Well, even on television, the wide angle lens, for instance, it
that
makes
what
me
happened?
look a little
Are we
heavy.
using a wide angle
And I'm
lens?
so thin in real life.
We have a very good question from one of our viewers. They want to know, for young professionals, what is your advice to them as realtors and as a mortgage? As well, I guess this would somewhat apply to you. Your advice to them as far as buying or renting. So if you're a young person coming to wanting to live here.
Right. If you know if you're settled on an area and you've done your research, you can't just come in and buy right away. You have to really know where you want to be.
Right.
So to me, if you have to rent, you're throwing that money away. You're better off, I think, putting that toward a down payment if, you know.
And that's, you would recommend that to a young person if they were coming up to you
even if it's
and
a
living
co-op
here.
that you, you know, at least you started somewhere that you're not going to grow out of too quickly.
Right.
You own it, you have the same tax benefits and write-offs, so.
From the mortgage world, no renting.
Right. Well, that's why I said it somewhat applies to you.
From the mortgage world, what about the availability of money for co-op or condo versus a house?
Well, you know, you said the first word there, co-op, which is a lot more difficult than it used to be. It's almost a bad word right now because half the industry has left the co-op business. It's much tougher, and again, there are a lot of reasons for that, but there's no question that co-op lending is tougher. The down payments are more restrictive, the creditworthiness is more restrictive, and not to mention the fact that you have to go through a whole board to get through the building. So you're getting through a bank, you're getting through a board, and in the Westchester area and locally, I haven't had that many problems, at least from a board side. I mean, I deal with a lot of co-ops in Manhattan too, and the boards can be painful. But overall, co-op lending is without question more difficult. Condo lending, not so much. I think condo lending is parallel somewhat to a single family, certainly from a down payment, from a debt to income ratio standpoint. You're not going to be, that's not going to be that different from a qualification standpoint, whether it's a condo or a single family home.
But of course, the home is the most desirable. Yes?
A single family?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what someone's looking for. There are people who are looking for a condo and they don't want the maintenance of a property, and some people, there are beautiful townhome areas where you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So I think it really depends on what someone's looking for, whether it's a single family home or some form of townhome or just an apartment or condo. Or there's no shortage of any of those. There's lots of different varieties in Westchester and lots of price points on all those types of homes. So I think that you'll find there's plenty of variety there. But I mean, listen, the single family home coming from the city to suburbia, that's your gold standard of getting your white picket fence and your dog named Rover and starting a family and doing all that stuff.
I have a question for the realtors, which I think viewers love to know about in their community. What was the highest sale, or approximately the highest sale, that happened in Larchmont, Mamaroneck, and what is also your average sale price from this past year or the past few months?
Larchmont, for sure.
Yeah, I think our largest sale in Larchmont was about 16 million.
And what type of house was that?
It was very large.
Obviously.
It was right on the water. It was very well done. You know, it was just beautiful.
16 million just doesn't get what it used to.
No. And in Mamaroneck, maybe one.
I'm not even sure of the number, to be honest.
Probably right around there. Probably around. I think I saw something. I know there's one on right now that's for 8 million, up by Winged Foot. I think there's two on in that price range up by Winged Foot.
I feel like people always love to dream when they're looking for houses and like to know that, right?
Yep.
I don't go to those open houses that often because then you come home and
Is there any advice for first-time buyers, the focus of this roundtable, that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to impart? We have about 5 minutes left.
Well, I think that if you're going to come to this community for the first time, you have to be willing to maybe sacrifice on square footage for the location. The location is obviously the most important thing. And make sure that you've got your qualifications ready so that when you find the right thing, you can buy it quickly.
Jane?
And I think one of the most common misconceptions is that walk to train is somehow, just because the home's smaller, it doesn't mean it's going to be less expensive. So walk to train, which everybody, especially young families or young professionals coming up from the city, they want that. They're used to a specific commute, where they just walk out of their door with their coffee, and now it's going to be 40 minutes longer, which, that's not that bad. But you're going to pay a premium for being closer to the train. But you'll have beautiful towns to walk around in as well.
Rob?
Get pre-qualified. You have to do it now. The realtors are expecting it, and it's to your own benefit. And a lot of some people shy away from a pre-qualification, and they're concerned even things like, I don't want my credit pulled because I'm afraid my scores are going to drop and we're not going to find a home quite yet, which is nonsense. It's not true. Again, I could talk about that for hours, but you should get pre-qualified. Find a mortgage professional you're comfortable dealing with, because it's going to be a journey on the lending side as well. And that'll give you an idea of what you can afford and how much down payment you can, different ways we can maneuver the loan and figure out a better way for you so that you're prepared. And certainly even on the credit side, there are things that we can do to help you to maximize or give you a better loan. And that doesn't mean bad credit to good credit. It could mean great credit to ridiculously great credit. And that can make a difference sometimes. So it's worth looking into, and it's needed these days anyway.
Well, I'd like to sneak a question in that somebody asked me when I told them that we were going to do this real estate, and that was empty storefronts. That's commercial real estate, but you see sometimes, not so much in Mamaroneck, but in Larchmont, there are a couple areas that, are the landlords don't they have an incentive to accept maybe a little lower rent?
I don't really dabble that much in commercial real estate, but if their taxes are high and their leases are high, then it becomes an issue.
Yeah, but you'd almost want something in there as opposed to just an empty storefront, but sometimes these storefronts stay empty for quite a while.
It could depend on the zoning too,
Yeah.
and the type of business that wants to open. The landlord may not want it, but it doesn't make sense to really keep it empty.
Yeah.
It's a big loss
Yeah.
after a while.
I've dealt with a lot of commercial. Again, I don't do a lot of commercial myself, but I've dealt with a lot of landlords, and I know a lot of people who own it. And rarely are they going to concede on the rental just because the storefront's empty. They're not just going to give. Same way an airline doesn't just give away a seat. 5 minutes for a flight, make it $5. What's the difference? 5 is better than 0, but it's not actually true in part. So there's a lot involved in it. Yes, certainly rents are going to come down from a retail side. They have rents going up on the residential side, but they're not going to give things away just because something is vacant. And there are financial benefits of having the store empty to begin with, which is a crazy concept and a whole different subject.
Well, perhaps you'll come back and we can talk about that
Anytime.
crazy concept and a whole different subject. I'd like to thank you, all three of you, for being our guests tonight. And our show has not ended, but thanks to Kathleen Spadaro from Spadaro Real Estate in Mamaroneck, and Jane Murray from Caldwell Banker, and Rob Miller from Mortgage Lending for Residential Home Funding. And hope to have you back again.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Mike, for having me today. Be here with this realtor group. And also stay tuned for more community stories.
Right. And the show continues.
You're watching the local live on MCTV.
This week in sports, the Mamaroneck High School football team torched the East Chester Eagles in their home opener by a score of 33-14. Senior running back Marquez Jackson Allen provided the spark for the Tigers, including a 75-yard touchdown run in this week's LMC Varsity Play of the Week.
View screen, they've got 3 wide. They snap, and the handoff to Jackson Allen. He breaks free, makes a move, keeps going, Mamaroneck. Once he was in open space, you knew he was probably going all the way. The burst of speed that you saw right at about midfield, just unable to compete with the speed and the strength of Marquez Jackson Allen.
LMC-TV's own Rebecca Berman takes you in-depth and on-site at the Westchester Material Recovery Facility. It may be the end of the line for your recyclables, but the beginning for new works of art.
If you've ever wondered what happens to your recyclables when you leave them out on the curb, well, we're here at MRF, better known as the Material Recovery Facility, to find out. We spoke with Louis Vitrone, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Facilities for Westchester County.
When we receive material here at the Material Recovery Facility, or the MRF, we process the material, we package it, and we sell it to companies to reuse and to make into new products. This is the tipping floor area of the Material Recovery Facility, and up to 200 trucks come in every day and tip their recyclables or dump their recyclables here. This side of the facility is the commingled side. That means your bottles, your cans, your food and beverage containers. This side over there is your paper and cardboard side, or pulp. The materials are tipped here and then they're processed. They're originally screened out by hand. We have 4 individuals that work in the pre-sort room, and they're pulling out pieces of garbage, things that shouldn't have been sent in with the recyclables, and they hand pick those materials out and separate them out. The material then goes through a glass breaker, and it's basically a giant sifter. It shakes the material to break the glass, and the glass falls through and comes out, and that's the first material that's taken out of the product. It then goes through an eddy current, which is kind of a reverse magnet, and aluminum is pulled out, aluminum cans. After it goes through all of that, it goes in the back where it goes through optical sorting machines. The optical sorters shoot 80,000 laser beams a second through the plastic material. It reads the thickness of the plastic, see what number it is, and then it'll separate them out into bins corresponding with their number, which allows us to market them easier and to get a better price for them.
So this is the finished product. This is what comes out at the end. Each one of these bales weighs a ton, and it's sold from the MRF to recycling companies. They pick it up here. Much of it goes overseas.
Commissioner Vitrone explained there are many markets for reselling our trash materials. Papers and cardboards go mostly to China to create boxes, wrapping, and paper for books. Plastics are melted down and reconstituted into other plastic products. Metals are melted down and reused in metal products. The county even recovers 40 to 60 tons of the plastic that boats are wrapped in over the winter. All of this saves us from making new petroleum products for plastics and also helps the county's bottom line, saving money for taxpayers.
We make about $6 million a year selling our recyclables, but we also save an additional $6 million because we don't have to pay to get rid of it as trash. So you have the environmental benefit, and it also makes economic sense to recycle.
Commissioner Vitrone proudly introduced us to another creative use of recovered materials at their Trash as Treasure Education Center Art Gallery.
It incorporates all recycled material, reused material, and all the pieces that you see here were made by local Westchester artists. One of the artists, Richie Benash, is a scrap metal hauler by day and an artist. These trees were actually flooring from a carpet company in Yonkers. It's over 100 years old. When the building was demolished, Richie was able to salvage the flooring, and he used a plasma gun to cut the material into the trees that you see here now.
Program specialist Margaret Egeziaco showed us a recycled artwork piece by a Largemont artist, Marianne Lamonaco.
What's really neat about this piece is actually measures around 7 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide, and it's made out of hundreds of old pens, and actually the pens come from our department, the Department of Environmental Facilities. So rather than throwing them out, Marianne repurposed them to create this beautiful Oregon-style art piece. So it's a really nice example of how something you traditionally would discard, she's created into a beautiful piece of artwork.
From the Trash is Treasure Recycled Material Art Gallery, this is Rebecca Berman for the Local Live.
Summer is over, and so is LMC TV's summer workshops. Let's take a sneak peek at our aspiring teen filmmakers in action. I'm here at LMC TV Studio 2, where a group of teens show us how they got their film on. For about 14 years, LMC TV has offered summer film workshops for teens who are curious about learning what it takes to make a movie. Teens from ages 12 to 17 are taught all aspects of production in a fun way.
One of the things that I like about this camp is this is the type of camp that I would have wanted to be in when I was younger. It's all about filmmaking, and it's all about having fun.
In every workshop, students learn to produce two different styles of film. They learn how to make a narrative movie and a documentary.
The first few days we start learning how to use all the equipment, and then it's sort of coming up with an idea for a movie and then shooting it.
So we just brainstormed, and then we had a whole bunch of little ideas at first, and then we managed to sort of bind it together. It's like one big movie.
So how hard is it to make a movie?
Newcomers learn pretty fast. I learned fast last year with the help of people who had been here before, and Dina and Tommy. So
with soup to nuts, they learn everything about making a film.
In the workshop, we get a chance to do all the roles, so camera, directing. I like writing the script, and I kind of like editing now. I made a lot of friends here, and I still keep in contact with them a lot. And I learned that making movies is a very big group effort, and there's no small part in making a movie at all.
Not a small part and not small stars.
Because she's a very mellow, cool dog. So pretty much she gets written into almost every movie that we do.
It's actually a really great experience for myself and for the kids. We try to give them the best experience they can at LMC TV.
Definitely coming back next year.
Why?
Because I love it here. It's fun.
The short films entitled 14 Minutes and I'll Tell You Later premiere this Friday at 7 p.m. at Mamaroneck High School Television Studios. I'm Erica Lynn with Sunday, one of the stars of the production, signing off for Local Live.
Hey guys, you're watching the Local Live. Stay tuned.
Woo!
Yeah.
Meet Carly, our pet of the week. She's a Chihuahua Dachshund mix in need of a loving home. Carly is around 10 weeks old, young, very affectionate, and always friendly. She'd make a great companion. If you want to adopt Carly, contact Vanessa Muyo at vmuoio@hrg.net for more information. That's all we have for you tonight, but now that we're back, we hope you'll be too. Tune in next Thursday when our very own Matt Sullivan will be in our studio to talk about his new movie, Sobrevivo. And of course, if you missed this broadcast, you can tune in any night of this week, 7:30 p.m. To watch again, tune in to Channel 75 on Cablevision and 36 on Verizon. For LMC TV, I'm Erica Lynn, and this has been your local news. See you next time.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is the Local Live.